Hello, I'm Weiman Kwon, creator of the WMK Math channel. In this video, I'm going to talk about an introduction to equations. This is the first part of a two-part series. In this video, I am going to answer these questions. What is an equation? How do we think about equations? Finally, how can we manipulate and balance equations? So, what is an equation? Here's a loose definition of an equation. It is a mathematical sentence which contains an equal sign, also mathematical symbols on the left and right side of the equal sign. These symbols can include numbers, different signs or operators. It could also be exponents, or even possibly variables. Just a side note, the equal sign actually separates the left and right side of the equation. You can think of an equal sign as the wall in the middle of the world that separates the left side of the world and the right side of the world. This idea is going to be important a little bit later on. Before we think about the key ideas of an equation, let's start asking, can you identify if these are equations or not? Let's take a look at the first example. Is this an equation? Yes, it is, because it contains an equal sign, math symbols on the left side, and math symbols on the right side. Is this an equation? It is not an equation. What's missing here? It is an equal sign. Our third example, is this an equation? It is an equation because it has an equal sign and things on the left side and things on the right side. Now, what is different between this particular equation and the first equation that I showed you? Notice there is this 2x over here, this x as a variable. Whenever we see variables as part of our equation, we actually call these algebraic equations. Now, whenever we talk about equations in general, or when people on the streets are referring to equations, we're actually referring to algebraic equations. And these are the equations we are going to manipulate in this entire section. Now let's carry on with some of the ideas of an equation. Here's the first idea. How can we think of an equation? What is the best way to think of equations? The best analogy I can use is that an equation is exactly like a scale balance or a seesaw. So we have a pivot point, which is kind of like the wall, and that separates the left side and the right side. This is similar to the idea where we have a pivot point in the balance, or the seesaw, and we have the left side and the right side. Now the similarities just does not end there. Let's start with the equation 10 equal to 10. We notice that 10 is on the left side, 10 is on the right side, so these two are actually equal. If we are to represent this with scale balance, we see that it is equal, so it's completely flat. Nothing is heavier, so it's not tilted towards the left or the right side. Now, what happens if they're unequal? Let's take this example, 5 and 10. Are they equal? Absolutely not. So they're not equal. So we have an equal sign and a crossed out equal sign. Now if we were to represent this using a scale balance, we see that the right side is heavier so that it is tilted towards the right side. What happens if we have 10 on the left side and 5 on the right side? they are obviously not equal. So it is actually tilted towards the left side if we are using scale balance. Finally, let's actually start talking about manipulating the equation. What I mean by manipulating equation is being able to mathematically manipulate the left side of the equation or the right side of the equation by either adding or subtracting or doing any other math operations. The best way to think about equation manipulation is about the adding and subtracting weights on either side of the scale balance or equation. Let's take a look at our first example. We start with the equation 10 equals 10. We're going to use a seesaw to really, show what's happening with our equation. We can see that it's a flat seesaw because it's balanced and it's equal. Now, what happens if I decide to add 5 on the left side? The equation suddenly becomes unbalanced because, we have 5 extra pounds on the left side. We'd see that our equation, it's heavier, so our seesaw is actually tilted on the left side, downward. Now, how can we rebalance this equation? There are two ways to really rebalance this equation. We can undo the changes we did. So in other words, we can get rid of the 5 added pounds on the left side, and it will become 10 equals 10, such as what we started with. There's another way to rebalance this. Notice how we've added 5 on the left side. Now we can actually rebalance this equation by adding 5 on the right side as well, because if we added 5 on the left side, we add 5 on the right side, it becomes perfectly balanced again. Let's take a look at another example, this time using subtraction. Now, we'll start with the familiar 10 equals to 10. So on the left side we have 10, on the right side we have 10. Let's say we decide to subtract 5 on the left side. So you can see that if we subtract 5 on the left side, the right side now suddenly becomes heavier. And we see that it's tilted towards the right side because it's 10 pounds, which is heavier than a little less than 10 pounds. How can we rebalance this? Again, there are two ways to rebalance this. First of all, we can undo the changes, or we can subtract 5 on the right side as well. And we become a balanced equation, or a balanced seesaw. Now we'll actually explore this idea of why having this equality is actually really important in the next video. For now, just worry about the idea of making sure things are balanced. There are two ways to balancing. You can undo the changes you've made, or you can readjust the other side by using the same manipulation you did on the left side. Now this concludes the equation video. I hope that you have a better understanding of some of the key ideas of equations. Thank you for actually watching this video. Feel free to write comments or suggestions below. You can also email me at waymanquant87@gmail.com. Thanks for watching, and I hope I'll see you again next time.